That tells me that if I want to optimize for AI search, I need to be on there.
Or you're going to get a 25-word prompt that you're not going to get your prompt volume for.
We're not just talking about SEO. We're also talking about new platforms.
Whereas sometimes you can't just measure something in isolation.
They all have a thumbs up and a thumbs down. That's not for no reason. So your bot logs can tell you so much. The homepage gets like 4 times more traffic than the other pages.
What do you think the future holds for Wix and for AI search in 2026?
Agents, agentic solutions and agents.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Frank Talking. I'm delighted to be joined by Crystal Carter from Wix, who is the head of AI Search and SEO Communications. Crystal, delighted to see you. Thanks for joining us. Do you want to give a quick run through in terms of your background and what you do at Wix?
Yeah, so my name is Crystal Carter. I'm the head of AI Search and SEO Communications at Wix and Wix Studio. And the way I like to sum up what I do really quickly is I communicate the value of AI search and SEO to Wix users, and I communicate the value of Wix to AI search and SEO communications professionals. And so folks who are working in SEO who maybe have not considered Wix, for folks who are doing things with AI search, tool providers, and also consultants, etc., letting them know all of the different fantastic things that we have within the Wix tool set to help people get more out of AI search, and also amplifying some of the incredible work that my team has done around AI, both within the platform and within the wider community. So I think, when ChatGPT broke big, people started talking about AI websites and things, and our CEO, Avishai, he was like, we've been doing this forever. Like, we had the first AI web builder back in 2016, and we continue to innovate. We've recently just acquired a vibe coding platform, which I absolutely love and use all the time. It's called Base 44, and I use it to help me solve SEO problems and AI search problems. Because one of the things that's happening now is that there's a new platform every day. ChatGPT opens up a new, announces a new browser. They announce new shopping features. Perplexity has a new shopping feature or a new browser. All these different things are happening all the time. And we don't necessarily have the tools to see, to get the insights that we need as consultants, as marketers, as people advising our teams. And so sometimes you need to build them. And that's what I found. I've just been able to build solutions for some of these new challenges that we're getting. And I'm really fortunate that the team at Wix is also building solutions for this new world that we're in. So I said to them a few months ago, can we see the bot traffic from OpenAI? And they were like, yeah, we can. I was like, can I have a report for that? And they built a report into the CMS. So these are things that we're able to do. And I think it's a really exciting time.
Perfect, Crystal. Thank you so much. That's a great overview. So yeah, looking forward to getting into it. You've recently moved from head of SEO communication to head of AI search and SEO communication. So do you want to just give a rundown in terms of what that entails in terms of talking to SEOs, organic specialists, talking to partners? And I guess given it's AI search communication, you're pretty busy probably every day in terms of the new news and everything that's being released.
Yeah, so essentially we are looking at a very hyper-evolving space. I've been working in marketing for almost 20 years. I haven't done the numbers. It might be 20 years now. But I've been working in marketing for a long time. I've never seen so much change in such a short amount of time. And Andy, you're nodding as well. You're like, yeah, this is like go. This is go stations. And I think that and the role sort of emerged because of that evolution. We're not just talking about SEO. We're also talking about new platforms. And if yes, there's definitely overlap in the same way that there's overlap with YouTube SEO, but there's also specific needs and specific considerations and specific strategies around AI search that we need to be able to support our users with. And at Brighton SEO recently, I did a bespoke training session for some of our top partners. So there are almost 300 million users on Wix, and we have partners all over the world. We've served, something like 22 different languages, and those partners will support users with, dozens, hundreds, thousands sometimes websites. And so I had a meeting with, I got together, I published this on my LinkedIn, talking to them about all of the AI search tools that we have available within the Wix platform. We've got agents, agentic solutions built in. We have AI tools to help you create content. We have the AI visibility overview tool, all of that sort of stuff. And essentially what they said to us, they were like, it's so fantastic to know that Wix is on top of this, that Wix is ahead of the game with regards to this. There's a lot of tools that are playing catch up, but as I said, Wix has been doing AI, has been actively working in the AI space since 2016. So when I joined in 2022, I was really interested in visual search. I spoke at MozCon about visual search, and that's all AI powered. That's all machine learning, and it's all AI powered. They look at an image and they assess the image using AI, using vision AI specifically. And I was very pleased to see when I joined the team that we had vision AI in our image tool. So if I wanted to find a picture of a daffodil amongst my pictures, even if it wasn't labeled as a daffodil, it would find the photo of the daffodil within my photos because we had vision AI built into it. We have had the highest version of ChatGPT helping to generate meta descriptions, to generate copy, to generate text, to update text within the platform without adding on an additional premium for our users for ages. So they're able to get those tools natively in our solution. And essentially what we want to be able to do, and one of the reasons why the role evolved was just because search is evolving and what our users need is evolving. And we as a company spend a lot of time making sure that the platform works for our users. Very user driven. The Wix Studio, for instance, is a platform. The way I like to describe it is lots of people know Wix Classic, and I describe Wix Classic as a fantastic web builder if you're building for yourself, right? If you're building for yourself and you need something that get things quickly, really easy to access, really easy to manage, really easy to look after, Wix.com is fantastic for that. If you're building for other people, Wix Studio has lots of those things that you like, but it also lets you build for other people. So it lets you like do modular things, it lets you duplicate, it lets you scale, it lets you manage the back end, all of that sort of stuff. And that platform, Wix Studio, came out of listening to users. Users said we want something that does this and this and this and this and this, and that's the way we always work. So this is similar with the way the AI search stuff is going. We're listening to users. We're also listening to the market, and it's something that we hope will provide value. And I know that a lot of people are finding value in it. Value in it.
What are the common questions that you get asked from? Let's do the CMO, because that's quite a useful one for the audience, right? What questions do they ask about AI search that they're saying can Wix be the solution to that?
Yeah, so people will ask, they'll say, how do I know if I'm visible in AI search? Well, we have an AI visibility tool that's similar, that works in a very similar way to a lot of the sort of, third-party AI visibility tools, but it's built into your platform. So one of the things that people find challenging is there's so many new tools. You have to do like 12 different meetings to onboard a bunch of folks and to see what's going on and to see if it works. And, maybe you try it and it doesn't work. Well, we have an AI visibility tool that's built into the platform. You can see it. You can get an idea of how these things work. You could try out your prompts. You can test your prompts. You can see your visibility. You can see your brand perception. You can see your competitors, your citations, your mentions, all of that sort of stuff. And it's included in your platform. So one of the questions that we get is like, where are we there? Then people have to ask, how can I be visible? Well, I specifically asked, we built the AI Search Lab, which is specifically around that. So the AI Search Lab is a content hub with lots of information about how you can be visible in AI. The other things that I get from people, and I go to a lot of conferences. In the last 2 weeks, I've been in two conferences. In the last 2 months, I've been, 4 countries, thanks to speaking at conferences and things. And one of the other things I get is a lot of people are really confused with some of this terminology. They don't understand a lot of the machine learning terminology. There's people who say, this is just SEO. And then they start talking about like vectors and transformers, and they talk about like all of these different elements. And I'm like, if you are trained in keyword research and H1 optimization and backlink things and all of the core bread and butter SEO stuff, you were ill prepared for this world of machine learning elements. So I think that to say it's just SEO is to do a disservice to someone who's been doing SEO in the best way, and getting great results and stuff. So I think we invented invented. We put together a glossary, a specific glossary that is written for marketers by marketers and tells you like what these things mean for marketers. When I've been doing my research on AI search, and I've had to do lots of it, I'm sure you have as well. I find that a lot of times they're written, what is a transformer or what is, a hallucination or what is, a user bot or a training bot, those sorts of things. Well, they will write it like you're either building with AI, and you're not necessarily doing that if you're doing AI search, or they'll write it as if you are, or as if you are, a business transformation person and you're looking to transform your team and make them more streamlined using AI. I was finding that I was really struggling to find information that was specifically for marketers about this stuff. So we put together a glossary that talks about that. And the glossary might seem a little old school, but I certainly find it really, really useful. And I know other marketers who are fantastic SEOs, who are fantastic marketers who found it really useful as well. So I think that, and I think the other thing that I find is that I is when I have conversations with people is that everyone's at a different level. I talk to people who are again fantastic marketers, been wonderful at their craft, have been doing SEO for ages, and and people are on huge different things. There's some people who are like, I haven't even gotten into the AI stuff. I am great at all my SEO stuff. I'm great at my analytics, but I don't have time to get into like every single new platform, every single thing. And I find it really difficult because there's lots of conflicting conversations happening all the time. So I've seen people who are on that scale. Then I have people who are like fully like cyborg. They're saying like, I don't want to answer any of my emails. I have completely like duplicated myself and I have an AI avatar that does everything for me. And, they buy all my shopping and my whole house is a smart house and all that sort of stuff. So there's people who are there's a full spectrum of that. And I think what's really important in that space is to be really patient. So I have conversations with folks and I'm throwing out some of these terms and they're like, but what's an agent? And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Let's chop it up. What's an agent? And they're saying, well, but what is vectorization? And you're like, okay, that's fine. Let's get into that. And I think that we need to recognize that everybody's coming to it from different angles and that the use cases are different. So there's going to be some people where this is really, really acute. So I've talked to CMOs who've said like, we are getting good leads from ChatGPT. They're good leads. They come through, they convert higher than our other ones. The value is higher. I've talked to people who've said we get hardly any traffic from ChatGPT. I don't know what the point of any of that is. So there's people who are on different scales as well. And I think one of the things is if you're a professional and you're trying to support some of these teams, it's important to qualify where they are because it's absolutely the case that AI search is transforming the way that we work and is transforming the way that users are searching. People say, oh, but Google, the Google SEO. I'm like, but Google is not the same as it was 5 years ago. You go to Google and there's AI mode, there's AI overviews, there's, all these different features, and they're trying to drag users into these features, and users aren't clicking through in the same way that they used to because they don't have to in the same way that they used to. So we need to make sure that we are fully prepared for all of this eventualities, but we also are assessing how critical it is. So if it is the case that your business is getting loads of AI overviews, for instance, then you need to take some action there. If it's the case that you're getting great leads through ChatGPT, then cool. But it's also the case that not every market is full on cyborg. One of the things I've got an article on the AI Search Lab where I mention it in my introduction to generative engine optimization. I don't like the name, but that's what people call it. So Mike King recently presented at Brighton SEO, and he was like, look, I don't make the rules. It's just what they call it. And the other thing I find people that get salty about that term, and it's like the reason why people use that term though is because of SEO, like because the SEO on it is good. So that's why people use it.
No, Crystal, so it's a very emotional subject that I see, and maybe I'm in the bubble as well on LinkedIn, where I personally don't understand the negativity towards saying things are shifting and that things are different, right? Now, if you get somebody that is on LinkedIn that goes, SEO is dead, throw the playbook out, this is all that, you're always going to get these people, right? Regardless of whatever it is. And I just think you just ignore them, and you've got to then just adapt yourself and face reality and say, things are different. You're not the measurement. You see publishers suing Google for AIOs. You've seen the EU sue Google. Like, there is all of these things that will come into play because traffic is declining, and we need to adapt just as professionals. Now, I think it's worth focusing on the solutions, education, working with clients as we transform, as opposed to what it's called. And look, I'm with you. Like, I don't get offended by GEO, generative engine optimization. I can see why it is this name. I also used to have, to be honest as well, I used to have, like, with search engine optimization, the fact was it was kind of like you're optimizing for the search engine, but aren't we supposed to be optimizing for humans? So it was kind of like the name as well. So I used to go into when I was working in-house, and we'd revamp it to organic performance, and you'd be looking at YouTube, you'd be looking at apps. You
Yes.
obviously need the resource for this, but it was more about the organic placement as opposed to SEO or search engines. But
Yes, 100%. I think this is interesting because I've always been an omni-channel girly, like always. Like, I presented at Brighton SEO, I think in 2022 on the main stage, and my whole thing was omni-channel marketing. People are saying like, oh, we need to optimize for Google. It's like, I don't care where the traffic comes from. We need to like find the customers where they are. Like you said, you're optimizing for people. The top e-commerce channel, or the top e-commerce search engine in America, is Amazon, not Google. Facebook gets millions of searches every day. Pinterest gets millions of image searches a day. YouTube was the second highest search engine for ages. It's always been the case that there's always been like a whole plethora of ways that people access information. And it's always been the case that good marketers are meeting their customers where they are. And it does, and when I talk about that, I'd say, like, I'm not saying that you need to take over the YouTube channel. You don't. But like, if the YouTube channel isn't like putting your links in, using the right keywords, like using the hashtag, like optimizing your profile so that it goes to the right link, not the one without the dubs or the one without the HTTPS or the whatever, but the actual right link and all those sorts of things. If you're not optimizing for those things, then you're really missing a trick. And I think that anybody who's been working in an omni-channel, like not in a silo sort of space, was much better prepared for this shift than folks who were just like, I just do just the Google, like only that, because it's always been the case that you've needed to do multi-channel, and AI just amplifies that because they pull from all these multiple channels. A case in point is and I'll let you come in because I can see you nodding. But a case in point is Ross Simmons, who I followed for years. And when I first met him at MozCon in 2022, I fully fangirled at Ross. And I always want to when I see him, but I don't because I try to pretend like I'm cool. But yeah, Ross is fantastic and wonderful. And he's somebody who's his motto, he's got a book, create once, distribute everywhere. And he's always talked about multi-channel. And he's been talking about Reddit and Reddit SEO for years, for like more than 10 years. And then Reddit broke big and he was like, I told you so. I absolutely told you so. And all the work that he's been doing with his clients for the last 10 years has been getting them great results now, and I think that folks need to realize it is about where the customers are. The journey on AI is different. Like with the agentic solutions, with the like customization, the memory, for instance, like, I don't eat. I'm vegetarian. Okay, if I was to ask for like, give me some meal plan. I'm vegetarian and I have a family. If I went on a trip to Los Angeles and I'd said, hey, give me some restaurant recommendations on ChatGPT, it would know that I'm vegetarian and I have a family, and it would only give me recommendations for restaurants that had vegetarian options and were also good for families. It's not going to give me some like shishi, like, grown-ups only, like fancy pants, like whatever. It would give me good ones. And that's different from what happens on Google. On Google, they don't remember necessarily in the same way. They'll remember some parts about it, but they won't remember all of it. So I think like it's different. There's different things. And like, I frankly find it really interesting.
yeah, 100%. I mean, for my personal goals as well, like you never want to stand still. You always want to develop and learn about something you hadn't before, right? And that's the
Yeah.
whole point, as opposed to say, well, I know everything here, I'm not going to bother doing anything else. So And I do think as well, like the pace that we're going at. So like the two big things for OpenAI with instant checkout and then also with the apps integration, like this then makes it different or whatever. But like you are looking at another channel where there's 800 million weekly active users and growing. Why would you not then serve the audience that are there and focus on this area and more so? Like I just like
Yeah.
I'm totally with you
Yeah.
that
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting because there's also like not lots of new solutions there. So you talked about the just to check out. Well, that's an agentic solution, right? People have I was talking about people who have like full smart homes or whatever. In an agentic in a like fully agentic like A to A architecture like situation or whatever, you have your smart refrigerator and they realize when you've run out of milk. The smart refrigerator knows when you've run out of milk and then it orders milk for you. Like from your local farm shop or from wherever, and it just orders milk for you and then the milk just turns up and you're happy and you didn't have to go to the shop and you can just live your life eating your PJs, not eating your PJs, but wearing your PJs, doom scrolling, whatever, and the milk just turns up, And this is new. And this is a new opportunity for businesses. So like there'll come a time in the not too distant future where, people won't be like, do you have an app? They'll be like, do you have an agent? Do you have an agent that I can connect to? And if you do, they'll be like, great. I'm gonna pick you because you have the agent, and I think of my lazy self now. If I'm trying to figure out like where, like, let's say I want to get a takeaway or something, well, I'm connected to Uber Eats, right? So I'm just gonna look on what's on Uber Eats. I'm not gonna look on something else because then I'd have to like find something else and I'd find da 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 and all that sort of stuff. So like sometimes the platform just the medium determines the method. And I think that if we have access to that, that's really good. We just announced we've got a connection with OpenAI and Stripe. So we have a Stripe MCP that allows people to connect in a sort of techie way directly with agentic sort of solutions. We've also tapping into that space as well. And this is why I said, we are really making sure that those things are available. We also have agents within our platform. So you can create an agent that as soon as, a customer completes a task, it will do another task for you. And you can make custom ones, and we have ones that are built in there because people want solutions. Our customers want solutions, and they want solutions for their customers as well. And I think that is a branding opportunity. It is a growth opportunity. It is, and I think that, SEOs have a real, or people who have a background in SEO, shall we say, have a real opportunity to lead some of those conversations. The other thing that I've noticed of other people who are getting into this space who have come from an SEO background is that at the moment it's all earned, right? At the moment it's all earned, and there's not a lot of paid in there. I think I've seen Copilot trialing things. I've seen, you can see shopping feeds in AI overviews for certain queries. I don't know how many of those are the paid or not because like, I haven't seen those or whatever. But at the moment they're all earned. And essentially this means that what you've got SEO or people with SEO backgrounds, people who are leading AI search initiatives are in the C-suite having conversations with the CMO, with the CEO, and they want to know like what are we doing to get to be ahead of the game. What are we doing to create agentic solutions so that we can be more visible, to create custom GPTs so we can be more visible, to create other options that make our brand more better positioned for this new age of search and for this new era of being directly connected to our customers as things evolved. And I think that's an incredible opportunity. I think it's super exciting.
definitely, Crystal. So you will see, as we know, AI mode will have ads. Of course they will. ChatGPT will also be ad supported for free users,
Yeah.
but they've put a forecast in terms of how much growth will come through free users from 2026 onwards. And it significantly increases as time goes on. Perplexity have had a failed ad kind of offering at the moment. I think they only made 20,000 revenue in the last 12 months, which is pretty pathetic, but they have been dabbling within the space as well. So I think that's definitely an area that will continue to grow. To summarize on all of this, that was fantastic, but I would recommend everyone check out the AI Search Lab in the Wix studio. I've used it on a regular basis. I reference Crystal's charts in in previous newsletters. And it was basically as well when we've had this uh, Google's dead, ChatGPT's killed it, but your chart actually showed incrementality where people are using Google search and they're also using ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude. So,
Yeah.
and it's really fully understanding that customer journey and how they interact with different channels to meet
Yeah.
those goals.
Yeah, but the thing I find interesting about it is that some people are saying, oh, but the searches aren't direct for direct. I'm like, I'm not even talking about searches. I'm talking about people who are choosing to go to Perplexity or Claude or Gemini or Google to satisfy their information needs. And some people are find that as a user, I do this. If I need to find the business phone number, I will go to Google like it's the phone book and get that information. If I need to think through what is the best way to get to the airport, right? And I need to like figure out the options and I'm like, right, I've got this, I'm here and da 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 da. And I know I can't even put that into search. Like I can't even put that query into search because it won't give me anything. Then I'll go to a ChatGPT or that sort of thing. Or sometimes I go to Google and I get stuck and I end up going to ChatGPT. And so people are choosing certain platforms over others. And the thing I find interesting, I've been tracking this for a few months. Google is pretty much flat. At the very best, it's up by like 1% maybe this year, but looking at it over the last 12 months, it's about like, and 1% is like margin of error, but it's about the same. It's about 82 billion, right? And AI search tools, Claude, Perplexity, ChatGPT, Gemini as well, Grok, DeepSeek as well. DeepSeek seems random, but like they were really big at the beginning of the year. They still have 300 million users, or 300 million visits, which is more than Perplexity. And that continues to grow. And it grows with innovation. So in September, Gemini increased their visitors by 69%. So they went from 120 million, sorry, it's their visits by 69%. They went from 122 million visits to 207 million visits, which is huge. And that part of that has to do with like their integration into platforms, into like Google Pixel, into Samsung phones, into Pixel Watch and things like that. But you see that the usership increases with the integration. And I think as more of our lives become more AI, we'll just see more of that.
So with Wix being now a powerhouse in the space, in terms of the flexibility that you can do with Wix now, I've seen a lot of great feedback for that. I'm keen to understand how you can integrate product features that comes from the community in terms of what they want to see, how long the cycle takes as well, and then just how you and then for your role, how you communicate that to your customers and partners.
Yeah, so we have a couple of different ways. So we within Wix, again, as I said before, we listen to our customers. So we have a feature request tool. So if you are on Wix and you really want a feature, you can request a feature. Obviously, I work for Wix and I have the ability to just request a feature myself directly. So I do that. There's a few features in the e-commerce platform that I personally requested and like people use them. You're welcome. Like I hope you like them. And I think that and we listen. So we do a lot of customer interviews. We do a lot of, we have a lot of sort of boards of like power user groups. So we had a Wix SEO board when we were really like going in on developing the Wix SEO platform. We had a Wix Studio board while as we were developing that as well. And these are for people who know a lot about the space and we are very willing to listen to candid feedback about how we develop what we're doing there. Not only that, but we listen to lots of people from across the team. So we'll have a meeting all together with the product team, with the comms team, with the people who are building the product, with the people who are doing customer service for the product, and also with people who are supporting our power users, so agencies that build lots of sites. And essentially we chop it up. So we've had innovations that have been pushed through because the customer service team have said like we keep getting inquiries about this question, it's taking up a lot of time. We keep getting inquiries about this issue, it's taking up a lot of time, so we fix the issue. We also we drink our own champagne, so the Wix AI Search Lab is Wix, the Wix.com blog, which gets millions and millions of traffic every day and ranks for some very tasty keywords, if I don't say so myself, is on Wix.com. Everything we do is on Wix.com. Our investor stuff is on Wix.com. for Wix around worldwide. And Wix has celebrated our 18th birthday recently. Wix has been going for a long time in terms of internet days. And so we listen very actively. And I think that that's really, really important. The other thing is that I realized as I joined, because I'd come from an agency, and at the agency we were building websites, custom builds, and we were delivering marketing, and that was all good. And we would do some tests, but at Wix they test everything. We test everything. We will roll it out to, 10%. We'll roll it out to a beta. We'll test it. We will test it again. We'll come back and we'll test it again. We launch it. We continue to monitor. We continue to test. We continue to iterate. The testing is super, super important to the process of releasing anything. And that is something that I think is incredibly valuable, and that I really respect across the team. And we don't, rest on our laurels. If we see that it doesn't, if we see that, something needs more adjusting, we continue to do that. So I think that's really important too. And I think also listening to market elements as well. So we actively have groups that are focused on, leading the charge. So with the AI search stuff, we're obviously an enterprise level. We're traded on NASDAQ. We're a big company. So we also wanted to make sure our marketing is hitting, being present on ChatGPT and things like that. So we have a working group that's like interested in that and is like looking at what's happening in that space. And we use some of that to inform some of the insights that we share. Similarly, we work with partners, and we had a website with Elena Solis, for instance, at one point, and she was like, "Oh, Google just rolled out this schema markup for forums, and we'd love to have that. I'd love to have that on this forum website that I have with you." And we said, okay. And I think took our devs a week or two to have that built into the software for her. Similarly, we had the e-commerce framework that had schema markup for all of the images on your product. When Google first was talking about rich results for products, they would only give you an image an image card or whatever for the first image. And then later they updated it to include all the images, but we were already ready and didn't have to update anything because we'd already added that into the schema markup, for instance. We were one of the first platforms to include index now within the site. We kind of, we try to stay ready so we don't have to get ready is something. And we also listen to our users. So we recently implemented lms.txt for our e-commerce users, and it's early days for lms.txt. It hasn't been adopted as a formal protocol, but neither was robots.txt originally either. A lot of people are like, "Oh, but it's official." It's like, yeah, but robots.txt was just something that some guy made up in the 90s at one point, and it eventually got adopted. But goes through that process. Like that's part of the process. And the having a web builder that is able to standardize implementation. So we automatically generate it for e-commerce users. We automatically generate it based on content on the website. And when people update content on the website, we update we update that, and we regenerate it every 24 hours on their behalf. So this means that people who want to make their content visible in that way can do that, and are likely to do that more and more in the future. I've got some research coming out, an article I think coming out possibly today at time of recording around that. So I think there's some skepticism, and we talked about skepticism about lms.txt, but one of the reasons why we put it together is because our users were actively asking for it. Lots of people were asking for it. Agencies were asking for it, saying, well, we are looking to sign with Wix, but we also want to know, can you do this? And we were like, yeah, we can. And we had people who were saying, can I put this on my site? How can I put it on my site? That sort of thing. So I think that's really important. I've got some research coming out, an article I think coming out possibly today at time of recording around that. So I think there's some skepticism, and we talked about skepticism about lms.txt, but one of the reasons why we put it together is because our users were actively asking for it. Lots of people were asking for it. Agencies were asking for it, saying, well, we are looking to sign with Wix, but we also want to know, can you do this? And we were like, yeah, we can. And we had people who were saying, can I put this on my site? How can I put it on my site? That sort of thing. So I think that's really important. I think also like there's an option if somebody sees it on the website and they don't want it on their website, they can take it off. That's fine. We have that available as well. I think that's one of the other things we always try to do. As I say, we have hundreds of millions of users around the world, and one of the things we always try to build in is guardrails. And this is something that is not the case all of the time with custom builds, or even with like semi-custom builds. So there's certain web builders that I won't name by name. But people can make a real pig's ear of them. And if you go in to sort of help this agency or help the website with it, you've got a lot of mess to pick through before you can get to doing any of the stuff that will actually add value. With a Wix website, for instance, if somebody adds in schema markup, for instance, and they put in too many commas, or they put in, they put in curly braces instead of square brackets, or whatever it is, if the syntax is incorrect, we won't let you submit it. We'll tell you that's wrong, try again. And I've had it before where I've worked on custom builds, where I've built custom schema, and I submitted it and thought I'd done a great job. And I didn't know that it was incorrect. And I had to go back and like this was after I told the call, oh yeah, it's great, it's going to be wonderful, and it didn't land. We have, you're able to update your robots.txt. I have one test site that I have, and I've drawn a little picture of an astronaut on it, and you can customize it however you like, but you can also roll it back to default. We have meta descriptions, for instance, and you can set all of these different things, da 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 da. You can also roll it back to default. The default will always be there. We always have a way where you can sort of, there's guardrails for you. If you're coding, we have a coding framework called Velo that uses JavaScript, and if you enter syntax in there that's incorrect, it will also tell you if you make a call to a library that you haven't, if you have a library declared in the top and you haven't called it in the bottom, will tell you you haven't declared that library. If you call the library in the bottom and you didn't declare it in the top, then we'll tell you like these two things don't match. So we have lots of guardrails put in place to make sure that if you want to go far fast, then you can. If you want to try something that's new, then you can. If you want to sort of, do something that's more sort of I don't know, best practice sort of space, and you can absolutely do that too. And we have our SEO setup checklist built up to help you with that, and we have dynamic checklists that are AI enabled to help you with that as well. So we try to make sure that everything we do is accessible to everyone, and that we also try to do that with the comms. So we have a monthly webinar, and it gets like, we get thousands of signups for that webinar every month. I think, we have on average about 2,000 signups for our monthly webinar. And I always pitch it so that everyone can take something from it. If you're a complete beginner, you'll be able to get some of it from it. It's also recorded, so you can go back to it. And we will have supplementary information for you, because people start at different levels. And I think that that's totally fine. I jump around with the way that I learn things as well. I think that's totally fine. And so we always try to make sure that everything's accessible. This in the AI age actually supports us really well, because we have support documentation for every product that we roll out. And so if you get stuck if you're in Wix and you're trying to build, you're trying to optimize, you're trying to do whatever, and you get stuck, we have a human that you can talk to at any time. 24-hour customer support. We also have an AI tool built into it. So there's a little AI assistant, and you could ask that questions about your website. We also have full support documentation, which also includes an AI assistant. And then also, because we have full support documentation, and with the Wix SEO Learning Hub and with the Wix AI Search Lab, we also have sort of strategic information. If you ask ChatGPT or Perplexity or whatever a question about how to do something on Wix, you will get a robust, you'll be pulling on all of that corpus of information. And we try to make sure that, everyone's supported all the time.
As a leader within the AI search comms world, because like I said, very vocal, you're on a lot of webinars, you're presenting conferences, writing SEO. What are you seeing, and the questions that are being asked, and from the experiments that you're running, what are you seeing that clients or people listening to this now could actually go and run with and test out to obviously see whether this can boost their performance in AI overviews, in ChatGPT, Perplexity? Obviously, there's different weightings in terms of what's being played here. And then very keen to understand the misconceptions as well that you hear from what people should be doing within the space.
Yeah, so I think first things first, if you're doing SEO, that will help. Like, it will help. I'm not going to say it's not. If you're doing SEO, that will help. And I think that that should be like table stakes. Like, don't assume that, like, if I'm gonna do AI search optimization or ChatGPT optimization or GEO or whatever, that I just abandon SEO entirely. You don't. Like, all of that SEO core foundation will all serve you well in this new space. So that's super useful. There are some things that are specific to AI search as well. One of the things that I find is people have been discussing a lot. I had did a webinar with Sitebulb about this, and I've included it in my article on what is generative engine optimization on the um, AI Search Lab as schema markup. Schema markup is one that people have discussed a lot, and they're saying, oh, they don't look at it, and it doesn't matter, da 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 da. And it's like, okay, yes and no. Yes and no. There are three types of responses in an AI tool. There's a training data response, which is very much like the encyclopedia. They have a lot of information. They will go into that information. They will pull out the answer. They will give it to you. They don't go on the web for it. They don't need to. This is the kind of question that is like a general knowledge question. Like if I was to say, why is Dolly Parton great? Dolly Parton's been around for 60 years. She's got a Wikipedia page. She's got websites. She's got a million stuff. They already know about Dolly Parton. They don't need to look on the web to give you an answer about why Dolly Parton's great. Then they have a RAG response, and that's retrieval augmented generation. So they generate the answer, but they augment it by retrieving information from somewhere. And with Search GPT or Perplexity, what you will get is what they're retrieving is from the web. Okay. You can also do RAG from a local data source as well. So for instance, if you were doing RAG for your stock, they would retrieve the information from the stock data that they have around that. And so they can potentially do that. So you can do local data as well. But for those sorts of things, they'll be pulling it from the web. And for a question like that, if it's a timely question, if I was to say, how did Dolly Parton influence Beyonce's Cowboy Carter album, they will go to the web for that because they don't have that information necessarily to hand, and it's a nuanced question that will come through there. And then there's like the deep research questions. So where we have like query fan out, they talk about it, and those will have multimodal questions in them. If I was to say something like, how does feminism play out in, or how do concepts of feminism play out in Jolene, the Dolly Parton song Jolene as interpreted by Beyonce compared to as interpreted by Dolly Parton? So that's a multimodal question. So you would need to know about that particular subject. So there'll be a neural network that's all about feminism. There'll be a neural network that's all about Dolly Parton. There'll be one about Beyonce. There'll be stuff that's around like things in between, and then they have to pull all that information together with reasoning. So when you see Perplexity does this, and you see they'll have like a chunk of questions, then there'll be a paragraph, then there'll be another chunk of questions and sources, and then there'll be a paragraph, then there'll be a chunk of questions, paragraph, da 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 da. Those are all reasoning rounds. If you go to Gemini and you look and you do the deep research option, it will also do these reasoning rounds, and they'll cover like 20 different websites, and they'll do reasoning, et cetera, et cetera. AI mode does this as well. They don't show you what's under the hood, but you can see it in deep research, for instance, and you can see it in Perplexity. They show it as well, and Grok will do it if you click the reasoning thing as well. So there's all those three different responses, and so it's with the RAG responses. If you have structured data on your website which triggers a rich result, then if a question is asked in which they need to go to the web to find the answer, then if you have a rich result generated, if your content has a rich result on the page that they've been to, then it will influence how you are perceived on ChatGPT Perplexity on the web search for a RAG response. It won't necessarily influence anything to do with the training data response. It may or may not influence something to do with the MOE, mixture of experts response, deep research responses. But the fact that it is involved with a rich result, because it is coming from search results, will potentially influence. So with that in mind, people say, oh, structured data, oh, it's not that important for AI search. Yes and no. I don't think that you should be doing worrying about every single structured data like schema markup thing. There's like over 1,000 different schema. I don't think you need to get into the minutia of every single thing. And I say this as somebody who loves schema. I absolutely love schema.org. If there's stuff that is rich results, that generates rich results, that supports rich results on Google or Bing, which is also important to think about, then yeah, go for it. Go for it. I've shared research on this where you can literally see them pulling through. Here's all the ones that are rich results. Here's them in ChatGPT. Here's them in Perplexity. They pull all the way through. Some of them pull all the way through. A few of them are just in one. A few of them are in the others. That's something that's important to think about. I think it's really important that people think about the logic of these tools, not just necessarily listening to what somebody said, including myself. about whatever it is. Like think about the logic of it, think about how they work, and you can get some good answers
Let's
from it.
say, look, OpenAI has been around for years. GPT exploded in Q4 2022. There are still lots of things that we can do that will benefit that kind of full channel experience as opposed to just ChatGPT or Perplexity or Claude. I always think
Yeah.
schema is a great idea. If you're an e-com site and you've got great reviews and you don't have schema there, why don't you put it on? It's a good tip to have.
Right. And schema on an e-commerce site gets you a rich result. Oh, and the results, the reviews also get you a rich result. So yeah, go for it. Like
Yeah,
that's great. Does it get you a rich result? Yes, go for it.
I totally agree. And with anything else, because there's obviously chunking gets branded around quite a lot to chunk content. I mean, the thing is, it's just if you've got a big piece of text and you're going, there you go, that's it, and it doesn't read very well. You're not linking out to authoritative sources. You've got other competitors that are talking about video. They put imagery in there. Like
Yeah.
all of these things will contribute to. And I think sometimes SEOs. I always remember maybe it's not just SEOs, but like it'd be, if I do this, will I get this? And it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it doesn't work like that. And I know it's annoying because in paid search, you can do certain things where you're guaranteed that I'll get this, but I just always found it was always very transactional. Whereas sometimes you can't just measure something in isolation and you just need to do more. So like I said,
Yeah.
video, imagery, if it's a
So
complex
yeah,
subject.
so video is fascinating because like YouTube is a massive source for ChatGPT, et cetera. In August alone, ChatGPT sent 20 million visits to YouTube. That's a lot. If you're not on YouTube, like you should be on YouTube for lots of reasons. It will help you with lots of reasons, but also with your AI search. So like that's really important to think about. Another one that I think people really, really overlook is getting into your bot logs. So your bot logs can tell you so much about what's going on. They can tell you things. So Google Search Console will only tell you what's going on from Google and Google Organic, and GA4 or sorry, and Google Analytics will tell you some things, but there's so much throttling, particularly on big websites with data from GA4. Your bot logs, however, will tell you which bots are crawling, which pages, at what times. They'll tell you if you're getting first from OpenAI and things like that. So we have a bot log report that's built into the Wix dashboard. You can just see if we've got Perplexity bot, Claude bot, Google. Not well, you can see like Google. You can compare it to Google Mobile Bot, which is interesting. You can see AWS, you can see Perplexity, and you can see if they're you can see hallucinated URLs in your bot logs. Basically, you can see if they're going to 404s that they just made up, and then you can get in and then you can redirect them. And then you can also go into ChatGPT and you can. This is another one that people always overlook, and I get people who are really skeptical about it, but I've done it on multiple occasions. You can go into, so let's say you see a hallucinated URL, you can go into ChatGPT or wherever you found it, and you can try to trigger an answer that gives you that URL. And then when you get that, all of these platforms, every single one of them, AI mode, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, da 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 da, they all have a thumbs up and a thumbs down. That's not for no reason. That is for a very specific reason. They have something called reinforcement by human feedback, and it sits really, really high in terms of priority of how they train their models. They have their model training, that's their general model training, and then they have this, which is super useful. An AI mode, there were some times where as soon as you got on the page, they're like, what do you think of this response? Sometimes when you go into ChatGPT, they say, we have this response and we have this response. Which one do you like? That's because they want reinforcement by human feedback. If you see something that is demonstrably incorrect, right? If they say Crystal Carter is from Italy and I ain't from Italy, I'm from California, I can go, no, thumbs down, Crystal Carter's from California. And then I can put a link to where that information is. And they will improve their training data. They will improve their information. I've done this on multiple occasions. Like we launched LMs.txt on Wix, and I went to Perplexity and I said, and I went to Perplexity and ChatGPT and I said, does Wix have an lms.txt generator? And they were like, no. And we had published the article probably a week before, and they said no, and I was like, that's not correct. And then the next, like the same day, I went to Gemini. So I used Gemini to help me generate the response because you can put in a like why. And I said, this is wrong, and here's where the link is. Can you write the response to ChatGPT? Like, talk to your friend. Tell your friend that I said this is wrong. And so I copied that in, I put that in, and Perplexity within a day, same day of putting it in, had fixed it. He within 24 hours had also fixed it. I had another website that was Site of Sites. It launched in April. I shared this at Brighton SEO. I launched it in April, and I said, and in like June, May, I said, what is Site of Sites? And they didn't know what the website was. And then a couple months later, I went to Gemini. I said, what is Site of Sites? And they said, oh, it's a website that has a collection of other websites. And I was like, great, wonderful. You must have updated your training data. And so then because I'm an SEO, I said, can I get a link? I said, what's the link? What's the URL for Site of Sites? And they said, oh, I'm so sorry, it's on Behance. And I said, nuh-uh, no, it's not on Behance. It's at siteofsites.co. Then I went, like, I think a couple weeks later, and I said Site of Sites, and they said Site of Sites is at this URL, and they can just see that. So I think people overlook that, like, these systems interact with them in a different way. On Google, if you see a result that you don't like, or that's incorrect or whatever, you can submit feedback. Like, who knows where it goes? I've tried those before, and like it just goes into the ether. On these AI tools, you can give direct feedback, and they listen to it because it's really high in the priorities of like how they train their models. DeepSeek, the model that launched at the beginning of the year, had loads of reinforcement behavior feedback, tons of it built into it. And so these are different tools that you can use. So I think, again, people say it's just SEO. It's not. Get in there and actually see what's different, see how they work. Google never hallucinates URLs. Google sometimes will show you an old URL, but they never just make them up, right? That's a different situation. And we have to have different solutions that, and we may very well use some of the old tools or whatever, but like mostly I don't have to look that often in my bot log reports for my SEO, but I'm all up in them for my AI search. Like, and I see that the homepage, for instance, gets for a lot of the sites that I've seen, the homepage gets like 4 times more traffic than the other pages. That tells me that if I want to optimize for AI search, I need to be on there. I need to be maxing out the value of the homepage, and that's super important.
Yeah,
So like,
100%. And as well, because just from my personal experience, this is more for small, medium business as opposed to like a big enterprise, but it does work the feedback
yeah,
loop. I had a guy who, when you did a search for my marketing consultancy business, so the Be Frank, it said it had 2 employees, and it was myself and this other guy who had added the company to his LinkedIn profile, where he'd actually started before me, and I think he was running finance, to be honest. So
right,
I made some changes to the site. I reached out to him directly and said, can you please update your fictitious position at the company? He
yeah,
soon took it down. I presume it was for some job interviews he was going for. And I did add the schema as well, which I should have done regardless
yeah,
of it, organizational schema in and key people and stuff like this. It was interesting to see how quickly certain things. So Google was really quick to update. ChatGPT took a lot longer. I think it was looking at LinkedIn a lot, which also took time to update. The recommendation that can come out of it is to really audit your kind of ecosystem, look at prompts that potentially customers could use. I've worked with clients in terms of user research, that we actually monitor what users are doing, what type of prompts they're using. Yes, it's very conversational. You're going to get a 25-word prompt that you're not going to get your prompt volume for. That's just, you got to live with it. But you can get an understanding and a feeling for what would be returned for that type of ICP. So
mm,
I definitely think for small, medium businesses, it's easier to audit a little more. Obviously,
yeah,
big businesses, then that becomes a lot of scale, but there's still
yeah.
definitely recommendations there to do.
Yeah, so I have an AI prompt, a generator prompt tracker or whatever, that's on a Google sheet, right? That anybody in a small business can do. And I think it's really, really useful. It can also be really useful if you're trying to qualify like how fast you need to run in terms of this. So any business of any size, like it's worth going in and asking, like, what is this business? Do they know who you are? Like, do they know who you are? Ask them what are the main products that are available? So, say like what is Wix, and what are the main products that are available there? What are the USPs? Who are their top competitors? Like what is this? Like ask them just some solid questions so that you can get an idea of what they're saying about you. Like because they're going around saying about you. And sometimes again you'll see something and you're like, well, why are they why and you'll see something and you're like, well, why are you saying that this person works here? Because he don't work here. Like, and they'll say, oh, we saw it on LinkedIn. And you're like, dude, no, you don't work here. So it's really useful. I think I saw one the other day, and they were saying about like we were asking about where's a good place to, it was a scuba diving company, and they were saying, what's a good free diving school in this area? And the top one that was listed, so the business that I was concerned with was showing third or something, and the one that was showing top, one of the reasons why they were showing top was because they had been mentioned in a Reddit thread. And this other business had not been mentioned in a Reddit thread. And so like that tells you, okay, well, one of the things we need to do is we need to get more active in that sort of space, and et cetera, et cetera. And then we asked them, like, one of the other core businesses that they did, or one of the core services they did, that we asked them, where's a good place to do this? And we weren't mentioned at all. And then they asked them about the business itself, and it mentioned this other side thing. And I was like, why are they mentioning that at all? You see this all the time where businesses will have a blog that's nothing to do with their core business. They'll have like a random open day or event that they were involved in that's not really to do with their core business. And like maybe you need to get rid of those things. Like maybe you need to no index them. Maybe you need to make sure that the tools aren't getting confused with some of the signals about what you do. Make sure that you are known as the expert on your business. I talked about mixture of experts. Well, when models are using just mixture of experts with their training data, they just look at they just looked at like neural networks. So for instance, there'll be one neural network that's all about cricket, and another one that's all about crochet. So like topics and things. Then there'll be ones that just do Python, or they do translation, or tasks and things like that. Well, when they're not connected to the web, when they're just using their training data, you can see this in the breakdown of how they do. So first I'm going to look at, information about this, then I'm going to look at information about that. And what you see when they're connected to the web, when they're using RAG responses as part of their mixture of experts, is they use websites as experts, which means that your website should be the expert on your business. It shouldn't have a bunch of random junk in it. It shouldn't have, a bunch of stuff that's not related to your business, not related to your business expertise. It should be specifically about what you do. If I was to ask a question on ChatGPT or Perplexity or blah, blah, blah about movies, the expert website they pull up would be IMDb, right? They've got all the movie information. That would be one of them. Maybe Empire Magazine or something would be one of them. But, I'm not going to go to IMDb for, recipes about cupcakes. That's not what they do. So similarly, you should have that. And like we talked about Reddit or whatever, but like people shouldn't have to go to Reddit to get information about your brand. You should have that information about your brand, and you can make yourself more focused. You can make your brand entity more focused, in a lot of different ways. It will give you a lot more value for your customers on organic, for your customers when you're doing sales calls, for your customers on AI search, for all of that stuff. It's a, rising tide moves all ships, as it were.
So we've talked so much about the exciting stuff that's gone on at Wix, AI search, and your role in terms of being a leader within the space. What do you think 2026 holds for Wix and for the AI search world, like for the stuff we've talked about? So I think ChatGPT will start to integrate ads. I think AI mode will become the default search experience. I know there's
I
a lot.
posted a TikTok about that too. Yeah.
I think be the case, and potentially we could see OpenAI file for an IPO as well at the end of the year. But these are all predictions we can get right or wrong. Doesn't really matter. It's just we're trying to plan ahead and have a look. What do you think the future holds for Wix and for AI search in 2026?
Agents, agentic solutions and agents. So we're seeing Google rolling out, agentic protocols. We're seeing folks rolling out, the e-commerce protocol, which also has like agentic solutions built into it. And Google's really pushing the hardware element of Gemini's capabilities. So they're adding themselves into Gemini, they're adding Gemini into Google Pixel phones, and you get Gemini Pro with your Pixel phone. And with Samsung phones as well. So they're really taking advantage of the architecture there in Android, and they'll be able to pull through the information that they have, the data that they have on users for, like, I mean, presumably, I'm not confirming that, but it's likely that they'll be able to use some of the insights that they have on users to support them in an agentic way. This means, and for Wix, we're building agents in our tools as well. So we are building agents to help people to get more out of our solutions. We find that whenever we add AI into our ecosystem, that users use more of the platform. they get more out of it. I don't know if you've ever worked with a SaaS team, but it's very often the case that people build a new feature and it takes ages to get people to use the feature. And you're like, but I built it for you. And they go, I don't know. But we find that we build the feature and people use it because we have AI there as well. So I think people feel like they've got a buddy with them as they go as they go along. And I certainly do with so so the agentic solutions that we're building are mirroring the wider market. And I think that, there are companies that are building more and more agentic solutions natively into their platforms. And I think that it will become normalized to have basically some tech that does stuff for you and just independently. So and I think that that will become more normalized. And this means for marketers that we need to know our customers. We have to. We have to know our customers, and we also need to reduce friction. So I think we're going to see a really agentic space, and there we see starting to see lots more tools for agentic building, for building for H. So there people are talking about SDKs, software development kits, and they're talking about A to A architecture. So building so that the agents can talk to the agents and it and I think that that's gonna accelerate in 2026. And I also think that it means that marketers need to know their customers inside and out in order to be able to serve that. And they also need to be able to have the tech stack to support that kind of access. We at Wix are going to be working, one of our partnership with OpenAI and Stripe, that's a prime example of how we're working to help set up that kind of infrastructure. Um, and really helping to sort of lead the charge in that space.
Thanks, Crystal. That's fantastic. So 2026, the year of the agent. Okay, look
You heard
forward
it
to it.
here first, or probably second. I don't know.
So, Crystal, thanks so much. Before we end, where can people find you if they want to follow?
Yeah, so you can find me at LinkedIn, and you can find me at the AI Search Lab, which is wix.com/studio/AI hyphen search hyphen lab.
I will put that into the newsletter and to the video as well, so people can
Thank
easily
you so
find
much.
it. Crystal, thank you so much for your time. It's been a brilliant discussion. Love learning about everything that's going on at Wix, your experience, what's been in the kind of pipeline, and what's kind of coming in the world of AI search. I think you'll continue to be busy in your communication role for the foreseeable future. But thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you.